time ago, there was a man named Big Joe. He was a slave on a tobacco plantation. Now, maybe you folks don't know what a slave was. Well, that meant that Big Joe could be bought and sold like you buy a jackknife. He could be loaned out or borrowed like a pencil or a book. Yes, sir, he was just property. Now, you know a man can't live that way and keep his pride. Deep down inside of him, Big Joe had a powerful yearning. And when he worked in the fields under the hot sun, let my people go, he thought, Lord, I want to be free. But he didn't dare say it out, because the man that owned him might have him whipped. So, since he couldn't speak it, Big Joe learned how to sing it. Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel? Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? So why not every man? Now one night a certain word was whispered in the slave quarters. There's a train comes thundering through the night with sparks a-flying. A train to take poor folks to Freedom Station. Any man ain't afraid to try can get on board the underground train tonight. When he heard that, Big Joe waited for the signal. Pretty soon he heard someone strolling by outside his door, singing,
some of these nights about 12 o'clock, this old world's gonna reel and rock.
Now to most people, that'd have just been a song. But it told a message to Big Joe. At 12 o'clock that night, he crept down to the riverside. He lay down among the rushes, and there he waited, still as could be. Then he heard a sound in the water. Big Joe held his breath. There was a boat coming. It might be a late fisherman, or it might be someone searching for a runaway slave. Joe was scared plumb down to the bottom. But then he heard across the water, roll, Jordan, roll, roll, Jordan, roll. Joe got into the boat, and the man at the oars pushed away from the bank without a word. When they reached the other shore, the boatman gave him a piece of paper. It had a man's name on it, Josiah Lewis, and the name of the town, Chester, Illinois. Then Big Joe set his feet on the northern road and set off looking for the underground train.
Board, little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many a more. Let us cheer the weary traveler. Let us cheer the weary traveler.
It was a long, long road he had to go. At first they hunted him with dogs, but the river threw them off. Then he went through woods and swamps, going by night and hiding by day. Late one night he came to a little town. The moonlight on the sign showed him that this was Chester. But how was he going to find Josiah Lewis? There were no numbers on the doors in those days, and Joe just couldn't walk up to any house and knock and say, howdy, because he was a runaway slave and he didn't dare. It got late. Big Joe crept through the back ways, puzzled and worrying. It hurt him sore to be so close to freedom and not get to it. By and by he came to a house that stood on the very edge of town. Joe ducked back in the shadows, for a man stood on the porch. Then the man began to whistle something. Yes, Joe knew that song. He'd heard it sung back home by folks that waited for their chance. And Joe knew this was for him. This was his train.
Board, little children, there's room for many a more.
Josiah Lewis lived in that house. He put Big Joe in a box marked dry goods and put him on a wagon. That wagon traveled fast. And when they stopped, the man opened Joe's crate, and out he stepped into the sunlight. What is this place?
You're in Collingwood, friend. This is Canada, and you're safe.
You said, friend? I'm really free? Big Joe turned around. Far behind him, his people were still in slavery. Big Joe knew that he couldn't rest yet, and then he sang what was in his heart. When Israel was was in Egypt's land. Let my people go, oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people